crossed, eyes forward. When it was her turn to respond, she stood and began listing off every ordinance she had enforced, every project she had approved, every dollar she claimed had been accounted for. It sounded rehearsed, mechanical, hollow. She tried to frame the land dispute as a necessary defense against property creep. She accused the board of cowardice and the residents of ingratitude. But no one clapped. No one nodded. Silence met her words like a wall. The vote wasn't even close. 34 in favor of removal. 2 abstained. Karen stormed out before the final tally was read aloud. No tears. No apologies. Just that same indignation trailing behind her like a bad perfume. The HOA would continue, but under new leadership, and more importantly, under new understanding. The illusion of absolute authority had shattered. It wasn't a neighborhood anymore. It was a community again. A few days later, I was back on my porch, enjoying the breeze and the buzz of cicadas rising in the warm dusk, when I saw a familiar car pull up near the subdivision's entrance. It was Karen's. She didn't get out. Just sat there for a long moment, staring toward the land she had once tried to annex with a paintbrush and a power trip. I wondered what she was thinking. Regret? Rage? Or maybe disbelief that her version of reality had finally collided with something immovable. She reversed slowly and disappeared down the road, her taillights small against the rising dust. Later that night, I walked the boundary again. The air was still, but this time it didn't feel like a warning. It felt like closure. The fences stood untouched. The signs unmarked. My dog trotted beside me, pausing every now and then to sniff at the ground like she, too, could sense that the land had settled. I passed the spot where Karen had once painted over my survey stake. The orange paint had bled through her green cover coat like defiance rising through denial. I let it be. It stood as proof, not of victory, but of the truth refusing to be hidden. Back at the house, I poured myself a glass of water and opened the final piece of mail that had been sitting unopened for a few days. It was a letter from the State Conservation Office. The final review had been completed. They thanked me for documenting the damage, restoring the fencing, and upholding conservation protections despite local interference. Attached was a certificate of compliance and a small note that read, "Let us know if your neighbors need help understanding boundaries." I chuckled. It was bureaucratic humor, but it hit the right nerve. The following week, I received an invitation, an informal one, from several residents of Whispering Pines. They were organizing a potluck, trying to rebuild some neighborly trust after everything that had happened. They wanted me to attend. I almost declined, preferring the quiet company of cattle and wind, but something made me say yes. When I showed up, the mood was light. Kids ran across lawns, folding tables sagged under potato salad and fried chicken, and for the first time, I saw the neighborhood as something more than a collection of property lines and rulebook. A few people approached to thank me. One even joked about hiring me to redraw the HOA entirely. I smiled and waved it off. I wasn't interested in their politics. I was just glad the land was finally being left alone. As the sun dipped behind the hills, I stood with a paper plate in one hand, watching the sky turn gold and lavender. Lisa came up beside me, holding a cup of lemonade. "It's over now," she said softly. I nodded. "For now. But if it starts again, we'll handle it better this time." She smiled. "You taught us how." The moment was quiet, simple, undramatic, and yet it held more weight than the courtroom, the meetings, or the threat. It was what I had wanted all along, not revenge, not attention, but peace. The kind of peace that comes when the lines are clear, the rules are honest, and the people on either side remember what it means to live together. Eventually, the party ended. The tables cleared. The last laughter faded into the night. I returned to my ranch, my land, my home. I stood on my porch one final time and looked out over the field. Everything was in place. Everything was right. The land was mine, not just on paper, but in truth. And the woman who had once tried to erase that truth with threats and fake authority? She was now just another name in a file. A story. A warning. Some people build walls to keep others out. Others build fences to show where they stand. I didn't need either. I had lines written in law, in history, in stone. And after everything, they remained untouched. Because when you fight with facts, with patience, and with purpose, even the loudest storm eventually runs out of wind.